All right, guys. This is Mr. Wadsworth. This is video part 2 of 8.1.5 Wads Explains. Right now, we're talking about heat transfer. Heat transfer is sweet. Our life is full of energy. Our life goes through, and we're always using energy. And today, we're going to be talking about 3 different ways that energy can move around as heat. Our first one is going to be convection. That's when you go down to your basement and you notice that it's cooler. And then you go upstairs and you go to the very top of your house and you realize it's hotter. Convection. Everybody say it with me. Hot things rise and cold things sink. Hot things rise and cold things sink. I promise I won't keep singing. You don't have to stop the video right now. Next, we're going to go through conduction. This person has hold of the pot. The heat will go from the pot through the handle, and we have heat transfer through contact. The fact that this heat is going from this hot pot to this person's hand is because heat is moving through conduction. Last but not least, radiation. When heat goes in the form of a wave, we call that radiation. So we say that this stove is radiating heat. This person doesn't have to touch this part down here, but they can still feel the heat. Okay, convection. As I sang earlier, hot things rise and cold things sink. That's convection. This is going to be huge later on in science. You see this a lot when we study plate tectonics. That's not an eighth grade concept, but a convection current, that's going to be what we go over all the time in earth science. So remember last time, hot things rise and cold things sink. That is associated with density. And that's what our next video is going to be on, is when you heat things up, they become less dense. And there's a whole video on that, but this is just a segue into there. Next, we've got conduction. We said that heat transfers through touch. The heat is spreading out and it's going through the pan. It's going through the atoms. The handle is in contact with the pan. One last time for conduction, the heat transfers through the handle because it is touching the pan. Molecules in solid objects don't move, they vibrate or jiggle. So this energy is going through the handle, and that's conduction. Back to radiation.
Henry Walker, please come to the office. Henry Walker to the office.
Radiation goes through, and radiation is is the heat transfer through the air or through empty space in the form of a wave. I don't want you to touch the fire, but I can put my hands close to the fire and the heat can transfer through the air in the form of a wave. Uh, I want to talk a little bit more about heat transfer. We need to remember that heat goes from hot to cold. Your friend is cold, so you share some of your warmth with them. You cool down as your friend heats up. So, right here, we have object A is really hot, object B is really cool. Object A shares the heat is transferred until both of these, we call it equilibrium, but really we have object A sharing the heat with object B until they reach the same temperature. This picture, I have an X drawn through it because it's not true. You can't share your cold. You don't share the cold. Instead, the heat transfers from hot to cold. Going to a different example, we start out with a hot object. We start out with a cold object. We put them in contact. So again, this would be conduction. And we're going to have heat going from a hot object to a cooler object. This goes back, I don't know if you guys will have seen the popcorn shakers at this point, but we've got energy that has we've got objects that have a lot of energy, objects that have very little energy. When we put them together, the energy gets dispersed throughout until these guys arrive at the same temperature. So, in closing, heat transfers from high heat to low heat or hot to cold until the heat is distributed evenly. And this is called the equalization of temperatures. Guys, this has been 8.1.5 part 2. Thank you so much.